What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Coalcast. We've been doing a little bit of a series, kind of a unscheduled series, getting it in where we can, kind of meeting the people around the shop, letting you know where they came from, how they got connected to coal iron, some of their interests, some of their passions. So today we have our CNC department, Nigel and Shiloh. Shiloh's our, is it lead CNC, head CNC?
Lead, I guess.
Lead.
Works.
Okay, we like lead. All right, and then
go with that.
Nigel operates our saws and helps out in the CNC. I don't know your technical term either. You're just Nigel.
I don't know, operator.
Operator. Okay. So you're Nigel operator. And these guys will be doing just about any machining that takes place inside of our shop and any precision needed parts. Both for our presses and prototypes and even sometimes just guys off the street, right? So I guess the first question is how'd you guys find out about coal? How'd you guys get linked up with Nathan? Because both of you, Nigel, you got hired because of Shiloh, right? He kind of let you know.
Yes.
So I guess the first one would be Shiloh. How'd you get linked up with coal?
Yeah, probably 3 years ago in July is when I started. So I had lost my job due to COVID and kind of wasn't really into the whole work environment of working in the trades just in general, and I was kind of planning on just getting out of it. And I'd heard about coal, and I applied and went in and met Nate, and I was real nervous. Nate and Andy, actually, and seemed to be a good connection with both of them. And I was a little nervous. I had my tattoos covered up, and then I saw Nate, and he's got them on his face and everywhere. Yeah. So I was like, I don't have anything to worry about. And they had the one Fidal and didn't really have anybody who knew how to run it.
So you started on Walnut?
Yes, okay. I started on Walnut and came in, and Nate liked the fact that he could just say, hey, this is what I need, just go. And I like to work by myself anyway, so it tended to work out in my favor. And then we added more machines and more people. And then after a year, we moved to this building. Mm-hmm. And then needed some help because we had expanded so much, and I'm only one human who can deburr and tap and load parts and program and do only so much. So we got a hold of Nigel and brought him on, and he didn't have any background in this stuff, so we trained him from the floor up, and now he does a lot of my setups for me and my go-to right-hand man. So
cool.
That's kind of how it worked for me.
Do you feel like, because I've had in previous positions, I've had to train people with experience and without experience. Do you feel like it's easier to train, or it was easier to train Nigel because he didn't have experience and you weren't having to break any habits, and it was like, this is how we do it, and we do it the same way every time, instead of saying, no, we don't do that here, or, that's a different kind of machine, you can't do that on this. Was it easier to train him because he was so fresh?
Yeah, that's something that actually Nate and I talked about before we started hiring. He's like, do you want to hire a guy that has experience on these machines that we might have to pay a little bit more, or do we want to start from the floor up? And I had experience with working with guys who had prior experience on machines, and sometimes you tend to butt heads, and everybody knows the best way to go about doing something. So I felt like in our situation, with the size that we are and the machines that we run, it would make much more sense to start from the floor up and train them according to what makes sense for us.
Sure.
And it seemed to work out in our favor, I think. And we've done it with more than just Nigel. We've done it with a handful of other guys as well. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say is we've had, even since I've been here, we've trained a few people on, even at the very bare minimum, loading parts, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got your Gages, your Adrians, you've got Tyler and Harley helping you out sometimes.
Even Jordan, he wasn't familiar with anything.
Yeah, Jordan. It's always funny when he makes it. Well, I don't know how to do that, and then you show him once, and he can.
He can do everything in the shop.
He's a quick study.
He's a quick study for sure. I always find it really interesting when you get into places that are they're adamant on like, oh, you have to have experience, you have to have a degree, you have to have all this stuff, and it's like, first of all, with all that experience and a degree, you're going to be paying me way more. And second of all, I'm not going to do it the way you want me to do it. So I've always preferred to bring people in with absolutely zero experience and just a rough idea of how to do it. Somebody like Nigel who's worked with his hands before, maybe has some of the attributes, but not the technical applications. Right?
So. Definitely. And we've learned and been burnt because we've hired before with somebody who said they had experience and it just didn't seem to work out in the right way. So
yeah, it's a weird interview process too. When we interviewed Josh the welder, you know, he showed up with a hood and gloves and he was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to weld and show you I know how to weld." And I was like, "Well, I trust you. Should I see you weld?" And it's kind of the same thing with CNC. It's like, you know, do I have you run a program? Do I have you? Like, I don't know. I trust you.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of one of the things you have to feel out and give it a 30-day evaluation and see kind of how it feels, if somebody's willing to learn or if they're just kind of headstrong in their kind of mental space. And some people don't like to acclimate very well. So it's worked out in our favor, training people from the floor up, and I'm happy with it.
Cool.
Yeah. And it gives me a chance to do more prototyping and staying off of just parts loading.
Yeah.
It gives me a chance to free up myself from
some of the more fun stuff,
Yeah.
the one-offs.
Yeah.
Nigel, so your background wasn't in CNC and machining. Where'd you come from, and what are some of the things that you did before you came here?
I was in a production leather shop for 8 years, making guitar straps and bags and wallets, just general leather goods. And then I came here. That's a short end of it. Not much more to it than that.
Okay. So how'd you guys know each other?
We worked at the Mounds Mall at the movie theater in 2000. I started in 2006 up until 09 maybe.
10 maybe? I got hired in 08, December of 08.
Did you guys work there until it closed, or did you leave?
No.
Yeah, I left before it closed, but yeah, we both worked there as high school kids at the local theater and met each other there, and we were both skate rats and music rats, so we knew each other
Sure.
through that, and I know his girlfriend as well, and so yeah, when we were hiring, I had thought of him and felt like he'd be a good fit, so it ended up working out.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both of you are in positions now as makers with the CNC machining and the. You run the laser here too as well. So there's a lot of different things that you guys do around the shop. What are some of the personal projects that you pick up? Because I know that you have like Sasquatch that you run, and you just started your own kind of thing. And I want to hear more about what you guys do individually and what you take pride in as makers outside of what you're doing for Coal.
I've got a little desktop mill that I've got in my garage at home that done a couple little projects on. I plan on doing some more, but yeah, I do some tool restorations, and I've made a couple things that I've sold. The precision bottle opener.
The shameless plug.
Shameless plug
the
right here.
precision bottle
There
opener.
it is.
Yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
I designed those, and for a very specific crowd, obviously. But yeah, I designed those and sold a batch of them, and people seemed to like them. And if people would like more, I can always make more. But I had those cut from Send Cut Send, and then I machined them on the CNCs here, and then lasered them. But yeah, I've got a couple little projects that I've done. More so, my social media is more just showing the behind the scenes of kind of what we do here.
Yeah.
And just stuff that I enjoy, and stuff that I never really thought much about before working in the trade of how something is actually made. You know, you put something together that you buy from a store that has tapped holes in it and bolts, and you don't really think about how that got there, you know, until I worked in the trade. And then now I can look at something like your mug and be like, how would that be made? Well, obviously not a mug, that's a bit different, but any sort of thing that would be manufactured, you start looking at it from the outside and start thinking of how that would be manufactured. So it's really got me excited about it and sharing of that with younger people, and getting the trade to change its perception of being a bunch of angry old 60-year-old men to be something that guys our age and then younger guys and girls who would like to learn this stuff and get excited about how things are made. So
yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing about your social media presence is it's not, here's the stuff I'm doing, come buy it from me. You'll put stuff up for sale that, you know, hey, these are available. But it is a lot of, like you said, it's a lot of the behind the scenes. It's a lot of the, you know, goofy stuff that goes on. And I think you just played a video of when I was listening
Oh,
to
yeah.
some album or whatever, and you post that, and it's like there's this perception within manufacturing that's, well, these guys, they go to work every day and it's grueling labor and it's so hard, and like, yeah, like there's hard work there, and you know, but there's also a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, and there's a lot of when you have a problem and four dudes are slamming their heads against a computer trying to figure out how to get this part done. There's a lot of camaraderie there, and I think that you and your social media presence does a great job at showing that, as opposed to we all follow people like Titan CNC and Fireball that show all of the super cool stuff you can do and some of the end results.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you show the camaraderie and you show the life around the shop, and you may or may not release prototypes on your Instagram a little bit early so that you gain a little bit of buzz. You know, people are like, "Oh, what are you making that for?" You know,
I have no
little
idea what you're talking
teasers.
about. I don't know.
yeah, we don't do that. We don't do any teasers, signed confidentialities. So,
But it's always good to,
Yeah.
when we get stumped over in our area, it's always good to be able to bounce off of different people who have different levels of experience in different types of things. You know, I have more of a practical sense of manufacturing, but where I can go to Logan, who has more of a engineering background, and then
Got textbook sense.
exactly bounce stuff off of him and figure out a way to go about it. Or I can go to Nate, who has more hands-on than I do,
Yeah.
literally doing it with his hands and trying to break it into place.
yeah,
And so I can bounce stuff off of him. And it's just a collective of everybody where I think we've got a good team of heads.
Yeah.
That,
I think Nate, and we've probably mentioned this on every single podcast that I've done, but Nate and Logan have this really, really good sense of like being out here and saying, oh, these are the things that I want to get done. And I think that you have a really practical way of saying, okay, well, I might not be able to do this right now, but I can take stepstones and get here. And I think you do a really good job of making things a lot more practical. So cool. Well, Nigel, what do you do? What happens in your free time, and what are some of the things that get you stoked outside of Coal?
I have a little forging set up at home now. So I'm making anything that I can. Just right now I'm making scrap. Making more scrap than usable goods. Yeah, there's some stuff that I've made.
what's it called, Nigel?
Morphin Time Forge. Morphin Hot Steel since 2022, baby. I'm obsessed with the Power Rangers. So my logo is a Power Morpher, and that's just how it is. But yeah, I've made a handful of knives. I'm playing with Damascus. I just recently took up golf.
Yeah.
So I have a plan now. Yeah, that's the first Damascus thing I've ever made.
So cool.
Yeah, it's 120 layers of trash. It's stuff from the scrap bin. It's a bandsaw blade and steel banding. And then there's some guitar straps that I've made when I was working at the leather shop. I like to make interesting stuff to me with Ace Frehley. I made that one for him. And it ended up on the cover of Origins Volume 2 album or something. One of his albums, solo record. But yeah, Les Claypool, my girlfriend. Les Claypool's not my girlfriend.
Even if it was, you know?
Yeah.
Les Claypool can be my girlfriend.
Yeah, give me my uncle or something. But yeah, I'm hoping to attempt to make a Damascus golf putter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to forge the bar of Damascus, and then we're going to bring it in and try and design a putter shape in CAD and machine a putter and engrave it and everything and make that. Other than that, though, I'm a recent dad, so a lot of my free time is now occupied with that. So
Yeah.
just being a dad.
So, I mean, before you got into forging, because you're relatively new to forging, right? It's only
Yeah,
been a
I
couple
hadn't
years.
done. I'd always wanted to since I was a kid and watched The Outsiders. I've always wanted to make a knife, and
Yeah.
I've been carrying a knife since then. But yeah, I'm new to forging. I didn't do it until I started here, and the first time I did it, fell in love with it. It's a lot of fun, and
And you're
It's a
doing
neat
most of your
wo-
stuff by hand too, right?
yeah, for the most part.
You work for a press company and you still insist on doing everything by hand.
Yeah, I made a hammer, and I punched the eye by hand, and that took 2 hours. So once I got the eye punched, I was over it for the day.
Yeah.
And then it took me like 6 months to finish the hammer. But I got it. There it is. Yeah. That's my first hammer. Looks fantastic. Little cross peen with a skateboard deck wedge.
I'm sure it was enough to make you appreciate punching a hole with our press.
Yeah, that takes like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying in comparison to...
I used to have to go over to Nate's anytime. We would like have days where he'd be like, all right, we're punching stuff today, and that's all we did. Yeah,
I made a handled hammer I punch from an old ball peen hammer I got at a flea market. And then, after that, I was like, well, I made the punch. I need to use it. And 2 hours later, I punched a little hole.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting.
Yeah. You've also tried to do Flutagon.
Yeah.
You're one of the few people in the shop that kind of took that on their shoulders to try to do it by hand.
I made a hot cut out of Flutagon, and my hardy hole in my anvil is only 3/4 of an inch, and I used 1 1/4 Flutagon scrap. So I drew that out to fit in there and then just upset it forever, it seemed. It was like 2 days of swinging a hammer at it to get a good enough shoulder to start with, and then I drew out the blade by hand as well. That one took a long time.
Yeah.
Doing it with the press is like 6 minutes and you're done.
Yeah.
So that's you definitely take that for granted working here and having all the availability to use all the equipment.
Yeah. What kind of stuff were you doing before you were forging? Because you were still making stuff, and I think genuinely you are one of the more intriguing people to me as a human being, because you're into such weird stuff, and it's like,
thank you.
No matter what I can talk to you about, you'll have some sort of way to relate it. There is no cubby that you belong in, and you're kind of same way in your creativity, where you've done leatherworking, you've done obviously now you're forging. What kind of other stuff have you done, and do you feel like it was all a buildup, or?
I since I was a kid, I've always liked making things. I remember being, I don't know, I was like maybe 8, and I just kept running into the living room and asking my mom, like, hey, do we have scissors? Yeah, and she'd give me some scissors. I'd go in there, do you have any cardboard and tape? I'd go in my room and I'd do something, and then I came out in this cardboard box Buzz Lightyear suit that I made, like full suit, legs, arms, wings, everything. And so I've always just been interested in making stuff. Skating, making ramps, and just making things work, because grow up around here, there's not a lot to skate, so you just kind of like make something out of whatever. So I've been making ramps and like remodeling my house and having to make parts and random stuff for my house, and I just like making stuff. I like to have a whole bunch of random stuff, and then when you're done, you have this tangible, unique thing. I've made countless things out of leather. I've fixed wrestling belts for people out of leather, and
wasn't there a Anderson Wrestling League for a little while?
Yeah,
it's like a backyard.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
very close with some of those people. And
I think I used to work with a bunch of the guys that did it at Pizza Hut.
You might have. I went one day and watched it, and if you're a fan of wrestling, it's amazing. It's so fun to be there and see everybody going so hard in this barn.
Yeah.
And then you leave and you're like, wow, that was as good as watching it on TV, if not better, because you kind of know some of these people. And they had like a belt, I don't know, rip or something. So I had to make a leather washer and stitch this leather washer on so you could get the actual faceplate of the belt to go back in.
Sure.
And everything. And so I repaired that for them, and I think they were grateful. They seemed to like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Whatever I can make, I just want to make it. I make stuff sometimes and never look at it again. As soon as it's done, I get rid of it or throw it away. Or
that's literally everything I've ever made. I'm just like, all right, it's done now.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that very much that do-it-yourself kind of attitude, and I think that DIY sense was instilled in me at a young age. Again, everything just boils back down to riding a skateboard.
Yeah.
Nigel is the person that if there's something that I try and fix and I can't figure it out and I'm getting upset with it, I just say, here, dude, mess with this. And he'll tear it apart and figure out how it works. And he's very mechanically, whether if he had experience with it or not before, he's mechanically inclined enough to rip it apart and then figure out how it works and then put it back together. And then I'm like, hey, cool, dude. I don't have to.
Yeah.
So he's repaired our garage door a couple of times. Twice now.
Yeah, there's quite a few, I don't know, redneck engineering solutions.
Midwest engineering.
Yeah, Midwest.
Let's change that. Midwest engineering.
Midwest engineering solutions in the shop that I know Nigel's had a hand in.
Yeah.
So.
We do a lot of self-repair.
Yeah. Well, you have to. It's even if we were, 75 people and had a full maintenance team, there would be a delay on some of those repairs, right? And we can get this done today, or we can pay somebody to do it and wait a week. Just get it done today.
We're also running 30-year-old machines that require maintenance, and a lot of the repairs we can do ourselves. So
and a lot of the stuff just doesn't get made anymore. So a lot of the guys that come down, he's like, hey, when I retire, you have to buy a new machine. Like nobody else can fix this.
And every time he shows up, he's like, hey, this is how you fix this. That way you guys don't have to call me out anymore, because it's doable. It's all doable if you can turn a wrench, you can fix a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So
I heard him tell Nigel was asking him a question one time, and I heard him tell Nigel, he was like, yeah, if you know how to work on one of these, you should be able to work on any of them.
Yeah.
So
and it's pretty convenient. And now we have 4 of the same type of machine, so we're pretty well versed in our machines. So good old Faddles.
Good old Faddle.
They're great machines for what they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially for the price point. I mean, if you're doing production, you make that money back in a day.
There's guys running them in their garage.
Yeah. They're awesome.
Yeah. So cool. Well, what are some of the things that you guys are looking forward to over the next maybe 6 months? Or you just started a forge? What are you trying to get out of the forge? What are you looking to get into? You have any projects coming up, I guess?
The putter. I'm really excited about the putter.
Yeah.
But just overall with the forging, I just want to make stuff. I like sculptures and like Fire Forge. His stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
Pete, I think is his name. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just trying to take inspiration from everybody. I don't want to be a bladesmith or like a hammer person or whatever. I just want to just express myself. Is all I want to get out of it is my own creativity. Yeah, that's his stuff. It's amazing.
It's mind blowing. The what do they call them? Tinker fidget toys or whatever.
The thing.
Yeah.
It looks like a everlasting gobstopper from the original movie.
Those things are so cool.
Yeah, I want one of those sad people as he's, I don't know. I look at his stuff and it's just mind blowing to me. He's so good. We have that bird thing downstairs. I want it so bad. It would look awesome in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Man, yeah. I love that. How do you even, the fact that it came out of his brain, that's the kind of stuff like I'm trying to accomplish. Weird. I like the weird in the world, and I think in this day and age that there's less weird. There's more weird on the internet, but like I'm trying to experience weird in person. Yeah, and that's what I want to accomplish. I just want to make
the right
whatever.
Kind of
Just make it to make it.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that I hope to do someday. I have a pretty big problem with it. If I make something, I'm making it because I want it to outlast me. I want it to be useful. Mm-hmm. I really like making hand tools. I don't like making blades. I'm right there with you.
We had that conversation the other day that hand tools are rad.
Yeah.
And knives are as cool as they are, and I guess is a hand tool. The detail work in it is, I just don't have the patience or the spare time.
Yeah.
Especially
when you work with people who are really into blades, and so you're making a blade and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to rough this out, and they're like, well, this angle and this, and you know.
You look at David's stuff and you're like,
I'm not even going to try and be that good.
Yeah.
You know?
My hand isn't steady enough to engrave anything half as good as his.
Yeah. And the fact that he'll spend 3 years making a sword, it's like, makes sense that it takes that long to make that, you know?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Shiloh, what do you got going on? What are you working on in the upcoming? You just did the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I had an old machete that was given to me, and I cleaned it up, and I did like a replica of a Friday the 13th machete. But for me, I guess what I have looking forward to, I guess for here is I think I've taken a lot of pride in showing younger people the trade and getting them excited. When I kind of got thrown into it, I was the youngest by like 30 years, and everybody was like, "Here, this is what you got to do. If you don't like it, leave," sort of thing. And I was at a different type of machine shop, and kind of scared into it almost. That where when I've came here and I've started training younger people, I didn't want to go about it in that way at all, and I didn't want people to feel uncomfortable or scared running these big machines that can hurt you if you're not careful. So I wanted to explain things as thoroughly as I could and make people feel as safe as they can. And the feedback I've gotten from the younger people that I've trained is really positive, and so much so that where in the future I wouldn't mind trying to share like an entry-level sort of introduction to CNC sort of stuff, whether it be with the Coal School or some other.
Well, you've had the school system here ask you to teach, right?
Yeah, the local
Trades.
vocational class.
vocation,
Yeah, they've reached out to me and asked for some help, but
yeah. And it's directly because of our intern, I just talked to our HR representative, and she talks to his teacher all the time, and she just kept talking about how much feedback he gives to his teacher and how amazing you guys are, and how his teacher has to be like, hey, like other jobs aren't going to be like this. The environment's going to be different. I'm really glad that you like what you're doing, but I've never heard of a shop being like this.
Yeah, it's not, in the experience that I've had in the shops I've been around, it's not always the most positive environment and not the most positive place.
Yeah.
People will pull into the parking lot there and they hate their job and they hate where they're at and they hate their...
And they're mad before they even get in the building.
They hate their job, hate their wife, hate their kids.
Yeah.
That's not the life that I would like to live. And
they only like their solitary lunch break by themselves.
So yeah, I'd like to share as much positivity and get people excited about making, and because we make some cool stuff and run some cool machines, and it's worth getting excited about.
I had never seen a CNC machine like in person until I came here, and I interviewed on Walnut, and there really wasn't anything going on there right before the move to this building. And Nate just said, "Well, we're not going to be here, so when can you start?" And that was my entire interview.
Yeah.
And then I came here, and to see everything like physically being made in person was really, really neat. Like he was saying earlier, I have a much bigger appreciation for how things are manufactured now, knowing and having made parts myself and manually made parts, jogging around the machine and stuff. It's really neat. He's a fantastic teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very patient too.
I've sat in and watched how you teach and how thoroughly you explain things without speaking down to somebody is very, very hard.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, he never makes you feel like dumb for not knowing how something is done. And he's worked manufacturing production about as long as I have, but again, different.
Different.
I came from leather. There would be days where I made 2,000 of the exact same thing, and then days where weeks where I made 200 of one thing. Yeah. And to come here and do the same in the grand scheme of things is really neat to learn it in this aspect.
Yeah, so I actually kind of want to go back a little bit, talking about the environment. One of the things we talked about on the last interview with Nathan was what we were trying to do differently, because there will be a lot of manufacturing coming back to America, and you're going to have small shops like us picking up a lot more work. What are some of the things, if we have any listeners out there that are trying to get into the business that maybe want to open their shop, what are some of the things that Nathan or any of the leadership here, or you're a part of leadership, what are some of the things that happen that you feel like separate the environment here from environments in other places you've worked?
I think one of the leading things that I got excited about from working here was when I first met Nate and Andy. They both were on the floor. They both communicated with me a lot, and they both were hands-on with the process, which some places the bosses or whoever's in charge might kind of separate themselves from that and then get upset if something doesn't work out the way they'd like. But I think, communicating with your staff and being in the trenches with everybody is a big part of it. I think, communication is really key.
Yeah, I like the idea of being in the trenches and being there. And, one of the reasons I was brought in was because Nathan was being pulled in different directions.
Yeah.
And he felt like his floor staff didn't have somebody who was there every single day in the trenches, was learning with them, growing with them, going through things with them. And that's something that's really important for Nathan. And that was weird. It just kind of felt like a all hail the founder moment. Like I was trying to suck up, but
Overlord.
Yeah, the Overlord graces us with his presence. But it is something that's really important to Nathan is being active. And right now he is physically building a machine for a customer. So it's not something that he just got the idea, designed it, and then you guys are building it or whatever. Like he's putting it through all the testing. He's the one assembling it. And he still stays very connected to those things. So even when he felt like he was being pulled away from being in the trenches, compared to any other boss I've ever had, literally any other boss, he is so much more part of the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important.
And another thing that's super important that he's always done, and I think it's great, is just simply walking by and saying, "Hey, how you doing? How's your kid?" Mm-hmm. Whatever it may be, just small talk. It might even be 45 seconds long, but just to know that he's there and that he cares, it kind of just gives you a bit more of a sense of, we've got a small, tight-knit group here, and I think something as simple as just saying good morning it goes a long way.
Yeah, when we were sitting down and writing reviews a couple weeks ago, I've never sat down for reviews, and the emphasis been on I wouldn't trade any of these people for the world. There's not a single person on this floor that I think is in any way even meeting their job expectation. Everybody is going above and beyond and finding ways to be productive.
Yeah.
We have no one who's a hindrance.
Yeah.
Everybody here will help everybody here at any given moment with any project. I've never been a part of like that type of camaraderie or team in the workplace.
Yeah.
And it's really neat to have that actual sense of like a family. Mm-hmm. Where, like he was saying, Nate would come by and like 40 seconds or even 3 seconds. He walked past me the other day and stopped and came back and just put his hand on my shoulder and said, "I appreciate you," and then walked away again.
I saw for Christmas he gave you a hug.
So it's really our group of people here is
a Nate hug
unmatched.
Is a great gift.
Yeah,
a Nate hug is a great hug.
Yeah, I'm not a hug guy, but when Nate hugs me, it's nice.
You appreciate it.
It's warm.
Something else I think people could benefit as well that I really appreciated here too. As soon as I started, Nate was like, "Hey, this is your work cell. You know more about this sort of stuff than I do, so move it around to make it cohesive. Yeah, own your spot, make it work as best and as smooth as possible for what you're doing." And he's been like that since day one with us, and we've moved stuff around and got rid of stuff and got shelves and done this and that, and to let us kind of take off and fly and even let us be creative with the stuff that we make, or even like you said earlier, prototyping. He lets me kind of take off on certain stuff and we can prototype, and certain things have came into play because of it. And it's to have him letting us have this open mind to it all and let us all be creative in our own workspaces, let us all kind of blossom, I suppose.
I think so many places don't appreciate the fact that, you might be using $100 in steel for whatever you're prototyping, and it might not work. But for me to send you somewhere to learn that same experience is going to cost me $1,000. Mm-hmm. And you'll come back without hands-on experience. You'll just have theoretical experience. So I think one thing that, because everybody here kind of grew into their position and what they're doing by experience, there's a really good understanding of like, hey, what are you working on? And if it's not, oh, I'm working on Gibbs or whatever, if you're like, oh, I'm just making this weird thing. Why? Because I want to learn how this process works. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. There's this, I've never worked in a scenario where like, if you're not on task, you are like questioned and interrogated. And here it's just like, if you can tell me why you're doing this weird thing that we're probably not going to be able to sell or it's not going to be productive, you're learning from it, right? Like you just got a fourth axis for the the machine number 1.
Yep.
You know, if I were to walk by and be like, hey, that's super weird. Why are we making candlesticks?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to see how this worked. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just,
also, I like candlesticks. You know, like,
testing out the capabilities of the software and the tooling and
The machines themselves and what
Since
they can handle.
we are running 30-year-old machines, we have to factor in the capabilities of what these things can do. And we're able to pull off some pretty cool three-dimensional
yeah.
stuff on our machines. So a bit of prototyping goes into that before we're wasting a lot of material on drifts or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. So
Yeah. Nigel, what are some of the things around the shop that you appreciate? I guess this is probably going to start to fade us out, but is there anything that sticks out to you that's like, oh man, like this is a huge difference between the shops I've worked at before?
Beside the people, really the people is a huge difference than anywhere I've ever worked, and most people that I've ever really talked about their work experiences is a huge difference. But I think the free range of like creativity that's encouraged throughout the shop amongst everybody, Nathan included. I built a grinder casually on my breaks and here and there.
Over like 6 months.
Yeah, in some downtime, and I learned a lot in that process. And now I use a lot of that knowledge in our day-to-day in machining, and had to figure out how to make a lot of those. I mean, I made pretty much everything. Shiloh helped me machine a handful of parts for it, but overall, it was all just a hands-on learning experience. And I think that in the shop, that is encouraged immensely amongst everybody to just make and create, and encouraged to be yourself.
Yeah.
is there a photo of your purple house-made grinder?
Not yet.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, in my phone.
Yeah.
But it's still sitting on my porch. I know Jerem will be really stoked when I get it off the porch.
Yeah.
But I had to make, to house the VFD, I bought an overseas VFD. And to house that, I put it inside an ammo can and then mounted that to a board that needs to be mounted to the table that the grinder will sit on. So right now it's just like a pile of
Things that could
things
be.
that need to be actually mounted together. The grinder itself is done and it runs, and it just needs to be sat on the table and screwed down. But yeah, there's no photo yet. But it's purple. Harley painted it purple for me.
Nice.
With a green ammo can.
Same
so
purple
sweet.
as Gnome. Was it his leftover purple?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Well, I think it's pretty close. I'm colorblind, so
Sure.
I think it's pretty cle
I guess, yeah.
And we all know people that are colorblind see in black and white. So.
Yeah, I'm like a dog.
Yeah. It's so many people here in the shop that it's like
It's an outrageous number of people that are
it's
colorblind.
50% of us.
To defend myself, it is extremely common amongst men.
Yes.
Extremely common.
I think
But
they're-
my variety of color blindness, I see colors, but it's like I didn't learn what all my shades were. So my color wheel, like my pie chart, is 5 giant pieces instead of 65 pieces.
Yeah, Logan explained it best when he said, you have a PlayStation 5 with 120 colors or whatever. I'm still Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Like I only have 64 color palette.
That's it.
That's it. I can't see anything past that. So people will be like, "Oh, like is this turquoise or teal?" And I'm like, "That's baby blue."
Or green, it could be green.
Yeah, it could be green. Like you get these colors that people can see all the different shades. Well, that's more of a robin's egg, or that's, and it's
Yeah.
like, nope, that's light blue. Everything is light blue.
He's playing Goldeneye.
Yeah,
Yeah, white and eggshell white are the same color.
yeah, that's fair. Cool. Well, before we get out of here, do you guys have anything that you want to plug or anything upcoming projects?
Just follow Sasquatch CNC. Like I said, behind the scenes sort of stuff. You want to see how the presses are made, and a little bit of maybe
Some sneak peek.
Maybe some
sneak
sneakies?
peeky sort
Yeah.
of stuff. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube and all the good stuff. So.
Yeah, I'm always kind of shocked at like when I see your YouTube videos, like they get a lot of plays, like
Yeah,
kind of bumping on there.
it doesn't translate to subscribers, so I'm not sure what we have to do about that. But yeah, I got shirts too.
Oh, yeah.
I also the machinist wall clock did pretty good.
Oh yeah,
It's
Yeah, that was cool.
it's got like a caliper
Dial.
face on it.
quick story. Producer Evan, ordered one of the bottle openers.
Yes.
And instead of bringing it to work, you shipped it.
I
Had to.
had to. Otherwise,
okay.
my ship station app or whatever would dock me for not shipping out an item. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't yet figured out how to do local pickups at the time.
Okay.
So it was one of my first sales.
I just thought it was funny. I went out to get the mail one day and I was like, oh, it's for Evan.
From
Shiloh?
From 60 feet up the way.
Yeah.
He got to see how I packaged everything.
Yeah. It's almost like when you first start a business, you send the item to yourself to figure out what a customer would receive. Yeah.
I think Evan also got one of the push daggers I made as well, which I've had some people question me about them, and I would like to make some more at some point if there's enough demand. Yeah, that's kind of it. But
similar.
There's a video somewhere of the, there you go, of the wall clock here. So yeah, those are available as well. And most people won't get it. They just think it's a stupid looking clock. But the people who get it, get it. And it's cool.
It's for that crowd.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, I don't really have much else going on. Just a busy coal life, dad life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nigel, what do you got coming out? What do you want people to know?
I don't know. If you want to follow me, Morphin Time Forge on Instagram. I made a TikTok. Probably won't use it. I don't really understand TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't
want to. That's the issue. Is I just don't want.
I hardly have time for the Instagram, and let alone TikTok. TikTok confuses me.
And Instagram filters out all the TikToks I don't want to see. So by the time it makes it to Instagram, they're going to be good.
TikTok
Instagram
is the
basically
best.
TikTok now.
It's the best way to grow, though. From what I've learned, like I've gained more followers on that than anything else.
I'm like a grapevine. I'm a slow grow kind of guy. But yeah, if you want to follow me on there, Morphin Time Forge, and see all the stuff I hope to make. I don't know, making stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for taking a little bit of time out of your day to talk to us. This has been the Coalcast, Coal Podcast. Cool. I still don't know the name of it after like 4 of these.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Evan, for everything you do. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Man, I have to pee so bad.
Leave that in there. Please leave that in
The
there.
bladder of an infant.
Cool. Is that all right? Good? Awesome.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Wasn't bad. It was good.